Today I'm going to show you how to make yourself some snares, what material to make those out of, and a couple of different styles here. And then we're going to go out in the woods, snares that you can set. One is a snap trigger, which the branch flies up and in most cases kills the game that you're after. And the other one is just a slip snare where the animal gets caught in it. The trip snare, which has a lot of kinetic energy stored in it as you bend that branch over, will kill your game. However, that can be tripped by many different animals using that trail, such as your fox, bobcat, and coyote. But what do I use for making my snares? I buy this galvanized clothesline wire. It comes in 50 feet. It's pretty cheap, and it is 20 gauge. And then I unwrap these strands, and you can make a lot of snares here. Now, what size do we want for a rabbit? That's what I'm after here. You want it a little larger than a baseball, this loop, and smaller than a softball. So use your fist as a normal guide, and that will get you pretty close. I like to unwrap about 26 inches of this strand. That seems to give me plenty to work with, make my loop, and tie it off onto a tree. I've cut my strand off, so I want to straighten this a little bit. It's still got some twist in it, and it's easy to straighten out. This is a real flexible wire. Now I've got my wire here pretty well straightened out. Now you can twist a loop in the end if you want. Sometimes I'll take a small washer and twist that on the end and then make my loop through the washer. That way I know the wire's not rubbing against the wire and it's not going to catch anywhere. Now here's an example of using a small washer. I do prefer one a little smaller here, but it will work. So now we'll tie this wire into that and we'll loop our wire through that washer. Now here's an example of our loop inside our washer. All we need to do is set that for our fists. That's about right. When you set these, you want to set these about 2.5 inches off the ground. You could go as high as 3 inches. But you're going to find the tension on this when you're pulling it is going to be a lot lighter than the tension on just using the loop itself like that. Again, when you use wire on wire like that, it just seems to create a little more tension, and you want this to slide as easy as possible. If you're using a trigger snare, this snare will work. It's got a ring here, allows the wire to move through easily, and because you're using another tree or a young sapling in the woods, that kinetic energy when it triggers will kill the rabbit. If not, you make sure it's long enough off the ground that this will, and it will, suffocate the animal quickly. So if you're using trigger snare, this is a very good snare. Now if I'm not using a trigger snare, you need to make sure that it can't loosen after it's tightened. This is a new one I'm going to try. It's a zip tie, a 14-inch zip tie, plenty big enough for a rabbit. Just put a hole through the end, put my wire through it, tire my wire off. This will self-tighten. Haven't used this, haven't tried this, but I'm going to try this, see if it works. It's pretty easy. Now another way to keep your snare from loosening up is to take the end, once you've made your loop in the end, take it and twist it in the middle and make an 8 out of it. Once you've made the 8 out of it, bend that at a 90-degree angle. Go from the back side, put your loop in the lower one, and then come back up through the top one. What you're going to find is that will also lock down, and the only way to release that is to grab that. Or you can use a penny or a washer, and I'm going to show you. Alright, we got our next strand cut off. Now we just want to make our loop in the end. So take your wire, make your loop, take a pair of pliers, and twist that in. Now you have your loop here. Push that loop down a little bit. Take pliers on both sides and make an 8 out of that. So twist that. Now you can see you've got that 8 in there. Now bend that at a 90 degrees. You can even twist this bottom a little tighter. So it's a little smaller loop. Take your wire, go through the lower hole of that 90, and then up through the upper hole. Make your loop. Again, your loop wants to be larger than a baseball, smaller than a softball. You use your fist, even 4 fingers would work about right. You got your loop. Now the advantage of this 90 is when that tightens down, it won't come out. It's tight. The only way to do that is push that wire back through. So that is a self-tightening one. It's not as secure as using a piece of metal at a 90, and I'm going to show you that. You can use a rusty washer if you have one. I've got several laying around. Or cheaper yet, take a penny and you can drill 2 holes in a penny, bend it at 90 degrees. It will do this same thing and it'll do a lot better. Now here's the rusty washer I got. If I drill a hole just a little larger than what the diameter of that wire is on both sides and bend this at a 90, it will work perfect for a locking mechanism. This is a little bigger than a penny, but a penny works just as well. So we're going to drill 2 holes and we're going to bend that for you and show you how to do that. Alright, I got 1 hole through here, you can see. Big enough for that wire. I'll take that burr off. I'll put another hole in through the other end. Again, a penny works great doing the same thing. Bend it at a 90. If you use a penny, make sure it's a copper penny, because those zinc pennies, they'll crack on you and they just won't work. Let's get the other hole and let's get this bent in a 90. Now another advantage of a penny over a washer is a penny's copper. It is easy to drill through, and these washers are steel, a little harder. Washers will rust. As you can see, this is rusty. The copper will corrode a little bit, but it will withstand the elements much better. Now, what is the easiest way to take these burrs off? I just take a much larger drill bit, put it in my hand, and turn it around in those holes on both sides, and it peels all the burrs off. Now we're going to use our vise here, and we're going to put that penny in there, and we're going to bend her at a 90-degree angle. Now we have our washer, 2 holes in it, bent at a 90 degrees. Now let's see how we got to put our snare in there and how that will lock down. Now on the other end of your snare, you're going to need a loop or something to act as a stopper. Alright, now that you have your washer at 90 degrees and you've got your snare wire that you're going to use, just need to make sure this hole is a little larger than that snare wire. Now instead of making a loop in the end, you got to put a stopper on the end. Now you can take and put like a nut and smash it, but for ease here, we're just going to make a small loop, twist it up. We're going to call that our stopper. Take this and bend this. Take our 2 pliers, twist her up. Now it's like making a loop, but this is what we're going to use for our stopper. Now what we want to do is slide our penny on there, or our washer. You want to go to the back side of this washer and run it right through the first hole. And take her all the way to the stopper. And for a rabbit, that stopper is plenty strong. Then take and make your loop and run it through the hole on the inside, the second hole. Now I used a short wire here just for illustration, but again, 4 fingers is about right for a rabbit. Make it round. And what you're going to find now, this will slide through here easily through this hole, but once it tightens down, it's not going to let loose unless you grab this locking mechanism and pull that. And I'll show you by putting that on my hand. So here we got our snare. We got our wire going through there. Simple. The rabbit gets in and pulls that. So as this tightens down, it's not going to relax. As they pull tighter and tighter, now you try to pull that, that is not going to come out. So that's going to lock down on your rabbit. The only way to get that out is to grab this and to slide that wire out of there. Hope that helps you on different types of snares that you can use in a critical situation of survival. And I'm going to go out and set a few of these. I'm anxious to try the one with the zip tie. They're easy and they'd be quick if they work. The only disadvantage is if this gets water in it and freezes, it's not going to go anywhere. So that could be the only disadvantage I can see. Otherwise, I don't see why this will not work. Now the first thing we need to do before setting our snares, of course, is finding our rabbit trails and trying to find out where they merge. A bunch of briars here. You see there's some rabbit sign all through here. A lot of droppings. There's a trail right here, a rabbit trail. See where he's been through. A little bit of blood there, or urine. He's going right up through here. So this is an ideal spot. Now you see there's no big saplings here to be able to put in a trigger snare that produces a lot of energy, but if we followed it into there, there would be. So that's one trail we'll keep an eye on. And if we can find where multiple trails merge, that's what we're going to want. Another trail here. You can see where he's working around in here. He's going up through there. This is all rabbit in here. You can see rabbit sign everywhere. Here's a trail. See where the rabbits have been all through this field. Everywhere. So here's another nice rabbit trail. Coming up through here. This one would be not bad. You could possibly find a sapling in there to set a snare. Especially one like that we could use. Take the branches off him, bend him over. So that's a good trail. Two trails meet there. And it goes all through here. And then I know I created a brush pile this year down here. And if they're using that brush pile to go in and out of, that would be a nice spot. So here's the brush pile. The rabbit's been going in right there. Looks like he may have been using a few different spots here. I don't think it's defined enough to set a snare there and have the activity I'm looking for. And what about in here? Yeah, there we got a real nice rabbit trail right there. And lots of little trees that we can set a snare on. So let's get a couple snares set and see what happens. Alright, we came in here, we found this rabbit trail right on the edge of the woods in the field. We got this natural tree hanging over. So I set my snare down here. And we got that about 3 inches. Now what we got to do is we got to set that. So we got to put like a wall on both sides of small sticks, making that rabbit go through that hole. Now we have our wall. It's nothing big on both sides here. First, the rabbit uses trail. We got our snare though, and our snare's turned a little. So we need to stabilize that a little. Do that with some real small branches. Alright, I got that stabilized. And what I used is just a weed. I just took a weed, like these weeds here standing up, broke one off, and stuck him in there to keep that square like that. That rabbit jumps through there, then you have him. So I may put one more stick just to the left of that, just to force him over that way so he's not sticking his nose over here. There you go. That snare is set right. It's the right height up. Like I said, just a little larger than a baseball. Use 4 fingers. That should catch us a rabbit. We're going to use this natural tree that's bending over to hold our snare. It's a little high. There we go. It'd work great for putting a snare on. All right. All right, so we want to cut some branches off here to be using. And I prefer a little green. They're easier, they don't break as easy. Okay, here's our first snare that we set under that brush. And you can see this is pretty easy. I set those last night. There's your rabbit. Our fox or coyote has not found him yet. Real good snare. Took him right around the head like it's supposed to. Now this is one where we had it up on a tree branch hanging down, so once he went through it would strangle him. Not a big rabbit, but he'll do. And again, I just seen another one, so there's plenty of rabbits back here and they're moving today. Unfortunately, our zip tie was the only one that did not work. 2 out of 3 rabbits on 3 different snares overnight. That's pretty good success. Now this snare was the one that we made the 8 out of, and we bent a 90-degree angle. That was hard to get off. Again, it was around his neck. That rabbit died very quick. So, proper way to set a snare. Now here is where 2 trails meet. This one right here, another one over to our right. We're going to go in there where the 2 trails meet and set another snare. We're going to do it a little different than the last one we set. Still going to be a dead branch over the top, but see if we can find a small pine tree to use. Just up from where that rabbit trail was, and they merged up on the other side of the woods. Got a bunch of pine trees here, balsams. So I took this little one here. They're just going to choke each other out. We're going to use that. What we're going to do is we're going to make a trim off branches and a spot for the rabbit to go under and set our snare right in that. We were standing right over there when we found those 2 trails, and they merged right about where that oak tree is right there. So we're going to use that spot right here to put that pine tree where he's crossing under here. So let's get that set up. You can see I cleared the bottom of that pine bush out. I've set that pine tree. So he's going to go right through his natural trail there. Now it's just a matter of dropping that snare. We're going to try that zip tie here. See if that doesn't work. And then we'll put some blocks on the left side here, a small wall. Alright, we have our trap set. We have our snare in there with the zip tie. We have it blocked off on both sides. Let's see if this is going to work, or if he's going to just push right by it. Again, using a pine tree, which works great. Trim off the bottom, set it up between some bushes here, block off the ends a little bit. Here I use raspberry bushes or stalks. They work great, they're strong. Pushed them in the snow. As long as he doesn't go around and eat those. And we'll check and see how it works. Let's go find our tree. Lots of these up here. These here are just going to choke each other out right here. So I'm going to take this guy right here. See if we can't use him. Alrighty. Now, if I let's set our trap. Now the ziplock snare this morning, nothing there, but I just seen that rabbit run right through there, so he's around here. Alright, here we got 2 rabbit trails going up into the woods here. One on this side of this pine tree, and one on this side of this pine tree. So let's go up and find out where those merge, and we'll set one more trap here for you. I was going to look at using a trigger snare. It takes a while to set up, but I followed these 2 trails in here. And they've got it made perfect for us. It comes right under this fence here, right through the strands. How easy is that to put a snare in there? And then they follow the fence both ways and behind me here. They go up through here. So instead of setting a trigger snare, we're going to try the snare that we did the washer with, the self-locking snare. And we're going to put it in. We're going to put it right in that loop there, which they're already using. So let's get that set up. Alright, I've set our snare in there. You can see it. That is our washer. You can use a penny, self-locking. Tied it off to the fence. It's just a natural runway right through that loop. We'll see if he comes back and uses it. Those are the snares we're going to set for you today, just to give you an illustration. They will work fine. Find your rabbit sign. You go into woods, briars and stuff, you'll find it everywhere. Find where trails merge. Set up a couple of snare traps, preferably self-locking. If you don't have a trigger snap that's going to whip up with a lot of energy and kill your game, your rabbit, then you want self-tightening snares that will suffocate them quickly. You don't want to do anything inhumane to animals. And this is for survival tip only. In most states, if not all, it's illegal to use snares unless you got a trapper's license. So I hope this helps you learn how to catch rabbits. Try not to disturb the trail. Step over that bob wire. Get her snared here. Well, I wanted to show you our snare we set, and we caught a rabbit. There's one in the fence here, and you can see we caught him by the head. So I set that last night. It's 10 o'clock this morning, and a coyote has already come and taken him. So that is the only drawback about setting your traps. But again, you can see where got him right by the head, come through the fence there. So that definitely killed him. That's the one with the washer on it. Like I said, you could use a penny, and it's locking. It wasn't going to get loose. So that shows you right there it works. You can see this was a real nice rabbit. Snare took him right in the back of the head like it's supposed to. Killed the rabbit instantly. Unfortunately, our coyote had breakfast this morning.